Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Somebody in the chat, I think it was Danny Brasco, mentioned it's always a great day when you have afternoon basketball to bet on, and that's what we have today. We're going to have afternoon baseball to bet on very, very soon with people like Mike McClure, A-Mags, and, of course, Matt Snyder giving out some baseball picks. Let's see how the picks did yesterday. We had a winning streak. It was about 7-8 days in a row with a winning record. This is a 3-3, so it's not a losing record, but we go 3-3. I lose my college basketball pick. Buckets loses both of his, but they were both in the plus money category. Shout out to Tom Casale, the JJ Starling pick, absolutely crushed. He had 27 points. SportsLine pick hits yet again, and Mikey B gets Zubac over 18.5 points. I think he barely got there with 19, but we'll take it. 3-3. A couple of the losses were plus money plays, so certainly not a bad day. Let's turn the page, though. Let's bring in the stars of the show. On a Wednesday, we got Martin Green. We've got Zack Cimini. We've got Larry Hartstein. A lot going on in the NFL. We're about to get to the MLB. But, Larry, it's conference tournament season. We're, 3-4 days away from Selection Sunday, but it feels like March Madness already.
Yeah, 40 games today. Big day for bubble teams. I mean, UNC, Baylor, West Virginia, Arkansas, Oklahoma, all of those teams cannot afford to lose today or else they have no shot at the tournament. I think I just heard one of the greatest lines in college basketball analysis this morning about the conference tournaments and the bubble teams is you can only add one more loss to your resume.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Zack Cimini, how you doing today?
I am doing good as well. And this is the time that you want to look for upsets. Conference tournaments, not in March Madness. It's been completely flipped from a few years ago. March Madness is almost straight chalk. Right now is when the upsets happen because a lot of these teams that are top seeds, they don't have incentive to play these conference tournaments. You look at what's happened so far. St. Francis upset Central Connecticut yesterday. I saw Florida International, a 9-win team, upset Western Kentucky. It's already been happening in the smaller tournaments. It's going to happen in the big tournaments as well.
All right. This looks like an IKEA commercial showing all the various shelving options available for backgrounds. That's pretty funny, says Paul L. Absolutely love to see that. And Martin, everybody loves to see you. The entire chat, every time you're in here on a Wednesday, I feel like it's just all Martin Green stuff. How you doing? What can we expect with the soccer today?
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, everybody. Great to see you all today. So we are now in the Champions League round of 16. So we're basically in the Sweet 16 stage. 4 teams made it through to the Elite 8 yesterday. That was Barcelona, Inter Milan, PSG, and Bayern Munich. And we've got the other 4 games taking place today. Some really big games. Got a pick on one of them, which I'm looking forward to breaking down a bit later in the show. And I'll be on the chat so I can talk about all the other games too.
Yeah, Martin, you are so efficient with being on this show and being in the chat. So if you have a soccer question or maybe any other question for Martin Green, put it in the chat. Joe Neuenfeld says, Martin is a top 3 human being of all time. Joe, I'd like to see that list, but I think it's a good call. All right. Top 3, Zach of all time. Zach, you, like I always say, you're behind Zach Morris, but in front of all the other Zachs. You've got not a college basketball pick. You're going to the NBA and you're going to the prop market.
Yeah, I will have a couple college basketball plays, but being on the West Coast, my board evaluation is a little bit, it's in the morning, so I've got to get my cup of coffee and I've got to go over the full board. Probably will have Texas on the site plus 2.5 against Vanderbilt, but I went to the prop market. Kelly Oubre Jr., I'm going to go over 17.5 points. He is questionable this time of year. A lot of the NBA players are going to be listed on the injury report, but let's hope that he plays because it's a great matchup tonight against the Toronto Raptors. I'm going to look at going over 17.5 points for Oubre Jr. This Toronto Raptors team, let's start off with the 76ers. The 76ers, we know they've been without Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and that's given Oubre Jr. an opportunity to be the key veteran player for this Philadelphia 76ers team. He's looking like the player of 2 years ago with the Charlotte Hornets, who averaged a career-high 20 points. In 5 of his last 6 games, he scored 19 points or more. And this Raptors team, they've already ruled several key players out, several players from the second unit. There won't be Emmanuel Quickly. It won't be RJ Barrett. It won't be Grady Dick in the starting lineup, and even possibly Scotty Barnes. Then I look at the two matchups this year between the Philadelphia 76ers and Toronto Raptors. Oubre Jr. shot 50% from the field last month. And in the first game, he scored his second most points of the season with 28. So it's a great matchup. And this time of year, I always want to look at impending free agents. Kelly Oubre Jr. has a player option in the offseason. So this is a chance to boost his market for the offseason. We definitely think he would opt out with the way the 76ers are looking. Let's go over 17.5 points for Kelly Oubre Jr.
All right. And I see somebody in the chat has found, Landon has found a 16.5, which, Zach, I'm sure you like even more. We're definitely taking it at 16.5, and we're betting it at 17.5 as well. Update, Joe Everett has a top three. It's Alexander the Great, number 3. Jesus, number 2, and number 1 is Martin Green. Martin, your reaction? That's a lot of pressure to be ahead of those guys.
That was really tough competition, but I'm glad to have made the top spot. I hope I can cling on to it by the end of the day.
I do want to say that Chip Patterson and Mackenzie Brooks, I think it's an appropriate transition, are two of the best people at SportsLine as well. And I want to remind everybody, hopefully you have your notifications turned on, so this is kind of a moot point. This will pop up for you. But we're sweating conference tournament games live this Thursday and Friday. Watch live on the SportsLine YouTube page of Mackenzie Brooks, Chip Patterson, and a ton of other surprise guests sweat out their conference tournament bets on stream and talk about your live bets in the chat. It all starts Thursday at 3:30 Eastern time, only on the SportsLine YouTube channel. And oh, by the way, on this SportsLine YouTube channel, right after this show, is going to be the Early Wedge live chat. It's normally me, Rick, and Patrick. Patrick is at the Players. He's at TPC Sawgrass. So for the second week in a row, it's just going to be me and Rick. We went an hour with your questions last week. It was really fun. So hopefully you just stay on this channel and coast right into that Early Wedge show. The Players, one of the biggest tournaments of the year. We're going to be answering all of your questions. Martin, the question everybody wants to know is, what is the pick on the pitch today?
Yeah, as I said, Sia, there's 4 big games taking place today and some really tight games. But the one that caught my eye is Aston Villa versus Club Brugge. Aston Villa secured an impressive 3-1 away win against Club Brugge last week, also known as Club Bruges. They've now won 4 of their last 5 games in all competitions. So I think these Aston Villa players should be surging with confidence right now. They have a strong home record this season, 7 wins, 7 draws, and just 1 defeat from 15 league games. I think they look capable of beating Brugge again when the teams renew hostilities today. Aston Villa's home games have averaged 2.87 goals so far this season. Only 7% of those games have seen over 4.5 goals. So I'm not overcomplicating it. I'm just combining Aston Villa money line with under 4.5 goals at odds of plus 105. Looks like a great set of odds to me. I do think that Bruges have a chance of scoring, but I think Aston Villa should put a couple goals past them. They're looking dangerous right now. So that's the pick that appeals the most to me today. But I've got leans on all the other games if anyone wants to talk about them on the chat.
All right. Yeah, we're going to get back to you at the end of the show in terms of anything you might need to verbalize. But I know the chat has already been kind of going off with questions, which you're already answering. So again, if you're listening to this podcast, that's great. Thank you. But if you watch us live on YouTube, and I know some of you are working and can't, but Martin is very active. So are most of us. Danny Brasco's in the chat answering questions right now, too, in terms of answering everybody's questions. A lot of us can multitask here. I'm going to go to some SportsLine picks. We've got, Larry, you're going to give out a day basketball game, an afternoon basketball game, which I believe starts in less than 2 hours. We've got another one that I think starts at 3 or 4 o'clock. But I'm going to start with some props, and you can see who these are from. We got Prop Bet Guy, we got Prop Stars, and Bruce Marshall giving out plays. Prop Bet Guy, we go to RJ Davis over 15.5 points at minus 118. Then we go to the NBA, Jaylen Brown under 24.5 points at minus 116. That's from Prop Stars, and that's that big game, OKC and Boston. And college basketball, we go Arkansas minus 3.5 at minus 116. That one is later this afternoon. And again, later in the show, Larry is going to have a pick for some afternoon basketball that starts very soon. Larry, I do want to ask you, I know you didn't necessarily break down this OKC-Boston game, but if you had to guess and you had to pick 2 teams, are we looking at a preview of the NBA Finals tonight in OKC and Boston?
It's so tough with the way the Cavs are playing. I do like OKC to get out of the West. We don't know the status of Tatum and a couple other key Celtics. We know Jalen Williams is out. So I'm not sure it's going to be the potential finals preview with both teams loaded, but it's definitely an intriguing game. I just got to say, because that college basketball play came from the Discord, that there are some people in the Discord that are really sharp. Not talking about the experts. I'm talking about subscribers. There's a guy in the NBA channel, Aaron Taylor, who has been absolutely on fire, hitting a ridiculous amount and sharing all his knowledge in there. So it's definitely worth checking out, especially as we get close to Selection Sunday. And during the selection show, Mike McClure and Tom Casale will be there breaking down the bracket, giving you their early bets and their early looks at the bracket.
That's amazing. So just to be clear, they're going to be there like in the Discord as the bracket is being revealed?
Correct.
That's incredible.
Be there. Yeah. And I think beyond as well.
If you're not already a member of SportsLine, I mean, I just can't stress it enough. Now would be the time to join with March Madness, with the NBA playoffs, NHL, and then, of course, MLB starting up. Again, sportsline.com/join. If you type in the promo code winners, you get 60% off the annual plan. Sportsline.com/join gives you access to the entire site, all the picks, simulations, model plays, expert picks, all of that stuff, the articles. But maybe just as important these days, it gets you access to the SportsLine Discord, which is just a fun place to be anyway, but it also happens to be a place with great picks. Speaking of Selection Sunday, I do want to remind everybody, brackets are back and you can get in the madness today on the CBS Sports app. Enter the bracket challenge for the chance to win a new Nissan Armada and trips to the 2026 Final Four. You can also run men's and women's bracket pools with friends and join our pool. Play today on the CBS Sports app or visit cbssports.com/play to sign up. No purchase necessary. See terms and rules for details. Join the Early Edge Bracket Challenge, and if you win a free Paramount Plus subscription. That's awesome. All right, we got to get to a golf pick for me. I'm going to remind everybody who my first-round leaders were from the Early Wedge betting show yesterday. And then, Larry, we got a pick that we got to get in because it starts really soon. Well, kind of soon. We'll get to it all after this message from our partners.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Freddie Bear says, awesome crew, great job, Early Edge. Let's cash these tickets to the pay window. Thank you, Freddie Bear. Martin Green is active, answering some questions. And Martin, we'll get back to you in a second. I just want to give out a round one play that starts early tomorrow morning. I'm going to ride the Michael Kim train until the wheels fall off. If you've been following golf, you've been following my bets and some of the other bets from some of the Early Wedge crew, you know that Michael Kim is, at this point, a very, very much a favorite of ours because he has been absolutely smashing it in all levels. And what I mean by that is off the tee, approach, around the green, putting. This guy looks like an absolute superstar, and he's not necessarily, but he's certainly playing that way. So I'm going to take Michael Kim in round one. Again, this starts tomorrow morning before the Early Edge Thursday show starts. Minus 140. This is kind of juicy. But again, this is me just kind of trying to hit Michael Kim wherever I can. You want to hit him in the finishing position market. We talked about that on the Early Wedge yesterday. I'm trying to find matchups. So minus 140 over Sam Stevens. I'll have another matchup for the afternoon tomorrow. So look out for that. I'll have another round one matchup that'll occur after the Early Edge, of course. So Michael Kim minus 140 over Sam Stevens. I like Sam Stevens, by the way. I think he's a good golfer. I just think he's going to find a lot more trouble than Michael Kim. So give me Michael Kim in this one. All right, let's get to some college basketball before we go around the horn a little bit. Larry, we've got this Georgia Tech game, and Zach was reminding us pre-show that you like it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You kind of like riding the Georgia Tech train, do you not, when it comes to conference tournaments?
At times. And, I used to cover the team as the beat writer, so I'm hoping that there's not that personal bias that creeps in. That was a while ago. And those were some bad years, some really bad years where Iman Shumpert was the star of a 2-14 Georgia Tech team in the ACC, and Paul Hewitt was the coach. But in terms of this year's Georgia Tech team, they have shown progress under Stoudemire. They won 7 of their last 10. They beat Clemson at Clemson. They beat Louisville. Now, they had a terrible ending to the season. They scored 43 points. That was the lowest of their year at Wake Forest, shot 3 of 23 from deep. But they're so erratic. In fact, if you look at Haslametrics, which is a great analytics site, they are one of the most erratic teams in terms of inconsistency. You know, they can be up, they can be down. I think this is a great bounce back spot because when Virginia took care of them in early February, that was a special day. That was Tony Bennett Day in Charlottesville. Georgia Tech's leading scorer, Lance Terry, shouldn't have even played that game. He had a bad wrist. He went 0 for 4, didn't score. He shouldn't have even been out there. He played 32 kind of worthless minutes. One of their key freshmen, Jaden Mustaf, was not even available. That kid is like a 6-man, sometimes a starter, playing very well to end the year. So I just think it's a totally different matchup. And you see it because of the spread. I mean, Virginia won the only matchup this year by 14, and yet they're telling us this game is a toss-up. I just think Georgia Tech has a much higher ceiling than Virginia, and I think they get it together in their first game of the ACC.
This one's interesting because it's Dixon Myers in the chat. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. It's either Myers or Mias. He says, Georgia Tech lost to Virginia by double digits. You referenced that game, Larry. But Georgia Tech was coming off 2 great wins versus 2 ranked teams, and Virginia was honoring a retired coach. It does seem like if we're narrative shopping, it's a big bounce back for Georgia Tech today, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, and they can't play any worse offensively than they did against Wake Forest to close the season, scoring 43 points, shooting 3 of 23. I just think they have made progress this year under Damon Stoudemire, and they're going to show it today against the Cavaliers.
Okay, I'm going to answer a couple of golf questions, and then, Martin, I'm going to go to you to see if there's any soccer that we need to catch up on. Matt Schramm says, I've got Kim. Of course, he's referring to Michael Kim, I assume. There's 4 Kims in this tournament, but obviously you're referring to the one I just backed. I've got Kim over Finau, round 1, minus 110. I don't love it just because Tony Finau is so up and down that we could catch his up round in round 1 to round 2. So I think it's fine. I would lean to Michael Kim, but it's just not something I would bet. Sia, do you like Kim over Smalley as well? First of all, Ryan, I do need the number on that, but I assume it's somewhere close to the minus 110, minus 115 range. I don't love it because I like Smalley's upside as well. I think Smalley is a decent DFS play because I do think he has upside. He rates out pretty well. I'd stay away from that as well. I do want to tell everybody that the pick I gave out, it's on DK under 3-ball matchups. So it's not under the conventional matchups. You have to go to 3-ball matchups. That wording you need specifically. And then you scroll down just a little bit, you'll find the Michael Kim play. Martin Green, soccer. And by the way, all the other golf questions, we're going to be on. Me and Rick are going to be on at 10:30 for almost an hour. So you can ask us any golf questions you want, whether it's related to DFS, betting picks, one and done, you name it. We've got you covered on the Wednesday 10:30 live stream, which we do every week. Martin Green, soccer, what do we got?
There's a lot of interest in the Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid game, as you would expect. Real Madrid, the most successful team in the history of this competition, playing their big local rivals. Should be a great game. Like I said, finished 2-1 in the first leg. It seems like the sort of game in which Real Madrid should get a result. Whether they win or not, I'm not sure, because a draw would be enough to send them through. I think we could see another 1-1 or perhaps 2-1 game. Maybe something like both teams to score an under 5.5 goals or under 4.5 goals would be good there. There's quite a lot of interest in the Championship as well, which is the second division of English soccer. A lot of talk about Leeds United, who are in a promotion battle with Sheffield United and Burnley. I think Leeds should beat Millwall pretty comfortably today because Millwall's goalkeeper is suspended and they really need a bounce back win. So Leeds minus 1.5 looks pretty good. If you're looking for something in the Championship, I also quite like Watford to beat Swansea. Watford have a great home record this season. Swansea have a terrible away record. So that's about plus 130. So you could go maybe draw no bet if you want to play that one a bit more cautiously. No one seems to be at all interested in the Lille versus Dortmund game, perhaps because it's so difficult to call. But maybe both teams to score looks like an interesting one in that one too. So hopefully lots of exciting soccer games. And I'll keep chatting for another couple of minutes while we wrap up the show.
Hero asks, Sia, are you sprinkling on Carl? Of course, he's referring to Carl Phillips, who I hit at the Puerto Rico Open at 70-1. And I know most of you cashed that because I put it in the SportsLine Discord. I mentioned it on the Early Wedge Monday show, Tuesday show, Wednesday show, and I tweeted it out. So I know a lot of you got that 70-1 hit, but he wants to know, am I betting him 110-1 in this tournament? No. Top 20 plus 475 is a little bit more interesting. But honestly, you're going to get a really good number, a really good plus number on the top 40 market. That's probably where I'd go. I think Carl Phillips has some ties to this course as well, even though he hasn't played it as a professional. I think Carl Phillips maybe in the top 40 market, maybe as a super sneaky low-owned DFS play might be the play there. I don't want to let this, I don't want to go to the recap screen, Zach, before I ask you. I meant to ask you about the OKC-Boston game in terms of whether you think that this is, I asked Larry, do you think this is a potential preview? Are these the two best teams in the league that'll be facing each other in the NBA Finals?
I do think it could be a potential preview with what we've seen from both teams. Boston, they've been the perennial team in the Eastern Conference over the last several years. And just to highlight today's matchup, Boston scored a season low 92 points in the first meeting, shot just 19% from three-point range, 9 of 46. And OKC has not lost back-to-back games since November.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This line certainly on the move. All right. I think we covered everything. Larry, was there anything in the chat you needed to address?
I don't believe so, Steve. I don't have that plus money play that you're looking for, but check the Discord later. Check the site because I've got 3 picks already up on the site and might have some more.
Yeah, and Zach was saying he's going to have some picks on the site too. So, we don't always give you all the picks on the morning show. There's a lot more. Obviously, any SportsLine member knows that. But if you're new to the show, just know that this show is a microcosm, truly, very small percentage of the picks you find on SportsLine on a day-to-day basis. Kylie Reynolds says, I'm on Straka top 20 at plus 210. Sia, love the odds. Yeah, I like those odds as well. Kylie told me to stick to golf yesterday when I lost my basketball pick. I think he was just he's just not a fan of betting on FSU apparently. So I lost that FSU play. I got to say, I leaned Butler today. I think that game's at 4:00. Butler playing Providence in the Big East tournament. Not an official pick for me. I think Butler's laying 1.5 points. Zach, I saw you nodding your head. I guess I'm kind of looking for confirmation from you. Did you look at that game at all? These are 2 bad Big East teams.
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
There's 3 Big East games here. It's at Madison Square Garden, so it should be a good game. But don't have a lean either way on that one.
Yeah, Georgetown, my team, plays today as well. All right, let's get to the recap screen before we get out of here. By the way, I do have still a winning record in college basketball. I should point that out, but I haven't bet more than a handful of games. Michael Kim, minus 140 over Sam Stevens. That's tomorrow morning. Kelly Oubre Jr. over 17.5 points. That's from Zack Cimini, and it's minus 120. Look to see if you can find a 16.5, by the way. Aston Villa, money line and under 4.5 goals at plus 105 is from Martin Green. We got Georgia Tech money line. This one's at noon today at minus 110. And how about some SportsLine picks? How about 3 of them? One from Prop Bet Guy, one from Prop Stars, and one from Bruce Marshall. RJ Davis over 15.5 points at minus 118. Jaylen Brown under 24.5 points at minus 116. And Arkansas minus 3.5 at minus 116. That one is this afternoon, I believe at 4:00. What a show. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Martin Green. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Chill right here. Just stay right here on this channel because in 6 minutes, it's going to be me and Rick. If you're not a super huge golf guy, just kind of tune in and see if maybe we can get you to sprinkle on an outright or a matchup. Have some fun on a 4-day golf sweat. Golf is a very unique betting platform, and it's the most fun sport to bet and to play DFS, in my humble opinion. But as far as this show, I guess we're done here. Thank you for everybody hitting the like button, for participating, for putting out picks. We'll see you in the Discord. We'll see you in 5 minutes during the live chat. And a big thank you to everybody on the show, including Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. This is The Early Edge. My name is Sia Nejad. We rest our case.